Vanakkam, Namaste, and blessings to all. This is Priestess Bhairavi Subramaniam PhD. Today I'd like to speak to you about several key astrological aspects which I felt a more vocal or face-to-face approach might be best used in discussing. Now today we've got Venus opposing Chiron. For those of you who are new to the subject, Venus represents not just our love life but also our femininity, the way we perceive things, the categories of thought that we have in our mind that help us evaluate what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad, what's apt, what's not apt, and so on and so forth. It is basically the way in which we perceive things in this material world and the way we relate to those things. So it's a lot more than relationships. So when you think about the immensity of what Venus represents in a chart, you can see why any kinds of aspects to Venus would be particularly significant to you. They will touch upon a very fundamental part of the way in which you see the world and the structures or constructs through which you make sense of this material level of reality. Today we've got Venus opposing Chiron. Now, Chiron is essentially known as the soul's wound or the soul's healer. It represents that part in ourselves which is fundamentally wounded. Now, this is not to put any labels to anyone, but everyone has a certain wound. For some of us, it's abandonment. For some of us, it's deeply seated anger. For some of us, it's a sense of grief that we just can't put our finger on. It's not usually the easiest kind of energy to work with unless you've spent a long time trying to become more and more aware of it. Now, Chiron is effectively the deepest parts of ourselves, which when we go into and we come out of, we leave slightly more healed, but also much more aware and knowledgeable about ourselves and our spiritual and material makeup, so to speak. So when we've got a Venus-Chiron opposition, what we basically get is this colossal tug of war between two different types of energies. One is basically telling us how to look at the world and how to perceive the world, how to judge the world, how to relate to the world and the people and things in it. And the other is basically calling us, summoning us to this very, very deep, dark, and you know me, I don't think darkness is a bad thing necessarily, but this very profound place in ourselves where we have this sense of absolute vulnerability and woundedness. And when you put the two together in this kind of tug of war or opposition dynamic, what you basically get is, for what is for many people I've been speaking to the past couple of days, a very profound and painful sense of confusion in most cases. Now, I say confusion because Chiron right now is in Pisces. Pisces is one of the most hardest energies in the zodiac to express, to articulate, to analyze, even to experience. It's that thing that you just can't put your finger on. And in that sense, it blends very, very well with the soul's wound. It makes the wound a little bit more inaccessible, so to speak. So you've got Chiron in Pisces and you've got Venus in Virgo. Now, the Virgo-Pisces opposition is one that I've spoken to you before. I see Virgo as the energy of the self-sufficient priestess, the one who knows how to work with this material world, how to work with these manifestations, and infuse in them a sense of spirit. She sees everything as being interconnected, but that there are certain boundaries, certain distinctions that you make between one thing and another. We call these healthy boundaries, and it's a concept which we really need to talk about more and more in spiritual discourses all over the world. Too often we focus too much on the idea of Pisces, which is absolute dissolution, absolute transcendence, and the rejection of any form of division between you or me. At the spiritual level, this is wonderful, but at the material level, you can probably see why this would create a lot of conflicts and tensions, particularly when you think about the boundaries of sexual integrity or energetic integrity or physical integrity. So we've got this dynamic going on already with Virgo and Pisces. With Venus and Virgo, what we basically get is this drive towards our understanding of material structures and the way we relate to those material structures, including relationships. Venus in Virgo basically says, well, this is what I'm comfortable knowing. This is the way I'm comfortable seeing the world. This is the way I see myself in a relationship. And along with that perception, this is my level of worth. This is my level of value. This is the way I see the other person. And this is the way I see that my boundary ends and the other person's begins. Now, ideally, that is how Venus in Virgo can manifest. In its unbalanced form, particularly as it is so stressed by Chiron in Pisces, it can simply retreat to a complete understanding of the material world in terms of pure sensuality or pure hedonism, or it can pretty much go against its own nature of self-preservation and simply seek to erode boundaries that would otherwise be there. Now, many people are feeling, the need to destroy some parts of themselves, and this is a good thing as long as what you're trying to destroy is your own ego or your own outmoded sense of the world, which is based more in terms of unhealthy energetic attachments or unhealthy cords with people, so to speak. By all means, feel free to tackle those aspects of yourself and refine them. But some are unfortunately interpreting the energy of this opposition to mean death in a far more literal sense. And I would sincerely hope no one would feel the need to do that. Now, to those who feel particularly vulnerable, as they feel as though their self-worth, their value, their innate grace, their innate sense of beauty, femininity, which is also represented by Venus, is somehow under attack or wounded, my advice to you at this time is literally to treat yourselves with kid gloves. It can be perceived as a very painful, almost an invasive attack upon your sense of self. For those who have been dealing with this Chiron energies very, at a conscious degree, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So take the time out, surround yourself with people who can nurture you, without any strings attached. It can just be a friend group or your family, and just make sure that you constantly receive affirmations about yourself to reassure you of your own worth that you innately possess. Chiron in Pisces is really dragging all the skeletons out of the cupboard right now, and it's basically forcing us to confront parts of ourselves which we may have for various reasons hid from ourselves or allowed to have been hidden from ourselves. So when you've got this tug of war going on, remember, be gentle with yourselves, be gentle with other people. Venus in Chiron, to me, in the literal sense, can signify the ending of a particular phase of learning in a relationship, even a business partnership, anything to do with the way you relate to the material world. That is because Pisces is the energy of essentially endings. So, with endings in the midst, and I'm not saying this means that your relationship will break up necessarily or anything of the sort. It can even mean a death in a particular phase of a relationship, or it can mean a breakup. It depends on your personal circumstance. But with this energy of ending in the sky, it's really, really important to know that within every ending, there is the seed of a new beginning, a new chapter that is just waiting to begin. So with that in mind, treat yourselves and treat others with as much kindness and compassion as possible. Know that everyone's kind of like rubbing up against each other's boundaries in the wrong way, whether or not they mean it, whether or not they intend for it to be so, I don't know, but I do know that this is happening even outside the context of romantic and financial partnerships. So be on guard for that. But remember, everyone is fighting a battle of their own that you may not be aware of. So watch your words, watch what you say and how you say it to people. Be willing to apologize if you are in the wrong. And at the end of the day, remember, you are worthy, you are infinitely loved by the universe, and you have a right to be here. So that's my Venus in Chiron report. There's a lot of other things going on in the sky. For example, we've also got the North Node conjunct Mercury. And that is in Libra. Expect out of the blue some kind of information to come to you that teaches you more about the principle of balance in your life. This is very close to Pallas Athena, who is once again fighting for balance, and she is opposed Uranus retrograde in Aries. And all of this energy is connected together by 3 yods in the sky, which I'm not going to go into detail. I will be writing about this, and I'll give you the link at some point. But just bear in mind, the energies of the sky are very, very, very active at this time. You're going to be learning a lot of new things. Just be gentle with yourselves and other people. Thank you all for listening, and Vanakkam.